Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you guys. And welcome to the networking live demo. For some of you who do not know me, I am Rohit Pardasani, full time instructor with INE. I have 5 CCIEs, CCIE and route switch, security, voice, collaboration, and service provider. Besides that, a lot of Juniper certifications, Checkpoint, Palo Alto. Well, today in this discussion, we are basically going to be discussing about the networking lab and the features that we have incorporated in at here at INE, and we would basically talk about uh, how you can actually prepare for any of the certifications that you're planning to do. So here I have the INE's website. I'm super excited, in fact, to talk about this because back in the days, we had just videos for you guys to watch. And if you really wanted to practice something, you had to either do rack rentals or probably do something like build your own topology. But now, here at INE, we've actually started implementing labs for you guys to actually test out your knowledge. So, something that I want to discuss is we have divided our courses, in fact, each video into 3 parts. So we have the video, we have quiz questions for each of those videos, and then we have a lab topology that you can actually click and start the lab, do it on your own, and test out what you've learned. So that's what I want to show you today, that how you can actually do that. um, Obviously, each day we are adding more labs, so it's going to be every day you would see new labs coming up for each of the technologies. So I am handling the network side, where we have the CCIE enterprise or the CCIE service provider, or even the CCNP or even CCNA. So here, if you see my site, INE's website, if you log in and you search, you actually go to learning area. A lot of people actually search directly from here. What I would suggest is go to learning areas, choose your domain. For example, if you're from networking or data science or cybersecurity, whichever domain you are from, click on that. So I'm going to click on networking, and once you reach here, you have all of these learning paths available for you, whether it's Palo Alto or Checkpoint or CCNP Enterprise or the service provider track, or even specific technologies that you want to learn or practice. A lot of times I actually get questions about how do I prepare for something like CCIE. CCIE is the most top level certification, and how do I actually prepare for that? How do I build my topologies, because it's a lot of devices. So now here at INE, what we've done is, for example, if I click on the CCI Enterprise 1.0, we have a lot of courses here which has been recorded by Brian, and each of these courses now have labs that you can actually practice. We also have quiz questions for that. Let me in fact show you that. So I'm going to choose just one course, any one course, let's say OSPF, and I click on begin. So once I do begin, you would see the list of courses, the videos which is available for OSPF, which is basically required for learning for the CCI enterprise. So we have the video. You can start the video. Once you watch the video, then you have the start quiz. That's basically going to ask you a few questions on what you've learned in that video. And then we have something called a start lab. So I'm going to show you one of them. Maybe let's say if I look at a simple thing like OSPF single area configuration, we have a start quiz. So I can click on start quiz after I watch the video. It's going to ask me 2 questions, and I can test my knowledge by clicking on the quiz questions. It's going to show me the questions. Obviously, if I answer them wrong, it's going to tell me that, okay, you have answered 1 out of 2 questions wrong. You can retake those quiz questions and evaluate your knowledge. So let's say I just click randomly on these two answers and click next. Again, this is the second question. Which of the following is true regarding OSPF network statement? I have these options. Again, I'm just going to randomly select two options and I click finish. It would tell me if I have how many answers I have maybe answered them correctly or incorrectly, and I can retry the quiz till I get them correct. So again, from a preparation perspective, what I would suggest is choose the course that you are preparing for, maybe a certification that you're preparing for. Go to learning path, choose your domain, networking, or whichever domain you belong to, and then start the course. Once you start the course, you would see videos, finish that video, and then move on to the quiz questions. Once you have the quiz questions, once you've done the quiz question, the best part about now that we have incorporated labs in our on our site, which you can directly start the lab, practice whatever you want based on the question. So a lot of people ask me that, what about workbooks? What we've done is gone beyond the workbooks, where we have now a video, we have a quiz question, and then we have a lab task for that video. So, for example, if I click on OSPF single area configuration, I can actually click on Start Lab. I can click on Start Lab. Here, you would see the topology. So we have a full blown topology, and you can right click on this topology and maybe open this in a new tab. So you have a full screen view of the diagram. You have a full screen view of this diagram. And then you have the task. So you can click on task here on top. So we have the task, which will tell you about the question. Okay, what do you need to do in this lab? I need to disable DMVPN tunnel on R5, enable OSPF area 0 on all the routers and on all the links that has an IP address of 155.1.0.0, and advertise the loopback of the devices in OSPF area 0. And once complete, you should have the full IPv4 routing table. Everybody should have everybody's loopback in their routing table. So that's your requirement. So this is something like the workbook, where we have a question, but the advantage is that it's based on the video that you actually watched some time back. So you watch the video, answer a few quiz questions, and then you come and do the lab. Again, to start the lab, what you do is you select the region where you belong. So I would select, let's say, US West Coast, and start the lab. Once I click on start the lab, it takes about 1 or 2 minutes, depending on how big the topology is. Most of the time, it would take about 1 or 2 minutes for the devices to come on, the lab to be built, and then you can actually start configuring as per the question requirements. So here you see that 20 seconds left for the lab to be built. And once it's built, you can actually go and open that topology, access all your routers and switches, and configure that. So I'll show you that. I, in fact, already have the topology here with me, which is here, which is the topology which is going to open up. So you click on Open Lab. Now, one thing you must know, that once you finish your lab, you must go back and click on Stop Lab, because without you stopping this lab, you would not be able to start another lab. So you have to click on Stop Lab once you've finished. So once you click on Open Lab, so once you begin the lab, and this screen comes up where you have to click on Open Lab, a new window is going to come up. And again, you have to wait for about 50 seconds to 1 minute for the topology and all the routers to boot up. And once they boot up, you can start the configuration. And once this opens up, you would basically reach here. This screen would open up, and you can basically configure as per the workbook task requirements. So how do you access the devices? Double click on the routers, let's say R1. I double click on R1, a pop-up window would open up. for the console of that box, and and then you can start your configuration. Same thing, you want to open up multiple devices, you can. So this is how you can actually practice and configure the labs. Again, what we've actually done is, instead of building a full scale topology, which eventually, yes, we would have that incorporated also, where we would have a full blown topology once you've actually gone through all the videos. Because the first step of actually doing any certification, whether it's CCNA or even CCNP or even CCIE, is to learn the technology. So, what I would suggest, go through the video, learn that technology, OSPF. So, if you want to learn about OSPF, go through OSPF videos. So each video, you finish that, answer the quiz questions, start the lab. Start the lab, practice, achieve all the requirements of the task. And in fact, the best part is, if you're stuck somewhere and you don't know how to answer this question, there is also solutions for that task. So again, I would suggest, don't look at the solutions directly, try it out on your own. That's the first thing that I would recommend, that don't look at the solutions. Solutions are there, and you can always look back at them, that did you do it correctly. Obviously there may be 10 different ways of achieving a task, as long as you don't break the requirements of the question. But so we have the most common way of doing it, which achieves the question requirements. But if you achieved it in a different way, as long as you've met the requirements of the question, you should be okay. Going back to the lab, I believe. So my topology has opened up. This was the lab that I opened up. And like I said, you double click on the router, the console opens up, and you can start your configuration as per the question. So maybe open up your task in another window, and keep that at the side so you can look at the question, look at the diagram, and start configuring the routers. Let's go back to router 2. So yeah, I mean, I can go config the router OSPF1, maybe define the router ID 1111, and configure the network statement 150.1.0.0 and 0.0.255.255 area 0, and network 155.1.0.0, 0.0.255.255 area 0. So you see, it's really simple now for you to actually start enhancing your knowledge, because now you can actually practice that. You don't need anything else. You don't need any servers. You don't need to build your own topology. You can watch our videos and you can actually do the lab. So right now we have already added labs for CCI Enterprise. We have added a lot of labs for Juniper as well, and I am in the process of adding labs for CCI service provider and CCI collaboration. CCI security is also in the process of being added, and all of these labs are going to be for each of the technologies that we have a video for. So any videos, they would have basically a lab associated with it, and quiz questions associated with it. Yes, if you don't see a lab for a video, there will be two reasons for it. Either that video is a theoretical concept and there's no labs for it, or we haven't really built it yet, but it should come up, because every day we are adding new labs, and every week, in fact, we have new labs being uploaded through the INE site. So always keep going back and refreshing and seeing what labs are available. Start doing those labs. I will show you, in fact, a full scale lab that we can actually do for one of the technologies. Let me show you that. So let's say if I was looking at doing maybe a Juniper lab. So this is a recent lab that I created, and assumingly you are preparing for maybe a JUNAS or a JNCIS or a JNCIP professional certification. Again, like I said, go to learning areas, choose your domain networking. You can choose the certifications from here, or you can also look at the courses which is available down here. So I have a course here which is called as Deploying OSPF v2 with Juniper routers. And I will show you how to actually do the full scale lab for this. For example, I'll just choose one of the videos, maybe inter area OSPF. Again, I have a video for it. There is a quiz question for it, and every time you finish the quiz questions, it actually, there's a tick mark that comes here which basically tracks your progress, so you know, okay, I've done this quiz question before, so you don't really have to keep a track of it. Where did I leave off last? You don't really have to keep a track of it. It actually tracks that for you. So if you've done the quiz questions, you will see a tick mark here which shows you, okay, I have done 1 out of 6 items in this section of LSA. And I can again click on Start Lab. You would see the diagram. You can right click on the diagram and maybe open this in a new tab so you see the full scale view of the diagram and what the requirements are. You can again look back at the task requirements. So I'm going to read out this task requirement and we will actually do this. So here it says we need to configure inter-area OSPF. So it says all routers have been pre-configured with IPv4 addressing. Configure uh, router 1 through 6 with OSPF v2 as the routing protocol. OSPF v2 is for address family IPv4. Create a loopback on each of the router. The loopback IP address must be in the format of x.x.x.x/32, where x is the router number. Then router 1 must have all interfaces belonging to area 1. Router 6 must have all interfaces belonging to area 2. The link between router 2 and 3 must be in area 0. Link between 2 and 5 must be in area 0. Link between 3 and 4 must be in area 0. Link between 4 and 5 must be in area 0. The loopback of router 2 through 5, they must be in area 0. Ensure router ID is x.x.x.x. And at the end of your task, ensure host 1 can ping host 2. Besides that, there's some information given that the username and password to access the router is username is root, password is Juniper exclamation. So you have the question now. Yes, there is a solution attached to it, but you don't want to look at the solution. We want to configure that. So again, if you notice here, it actually tells me that, hey, before you cannot start this lab because you already have another lab which is running. You haven't stopped that lab. So stop that lab before you start a new lab. It says you do not have permissions. Again, this is because I may be he logged off. Let's go back and let me see if I'm logged in. So stop the lab and start that lab. Once you again start the lab, you would basically reach here. Once you start the lab and open the lab, you would basically reach this topology. All you have to do is click on the routers and start the configuration. Now, again, with Juniper, it's a bit different from Cisco because Juniper separates your control plane with the data plane. So to actually configure this forwarding plane device, you have to actually configure the control plane. So I'm going to click on that, and you would see the login screen. Let me expand this. All right, so log in with your username, root, Juniper, go to CLI, and configure and start configuration as per your task. So the task basically said that we need to configure OSPF area 1 on all the device, all the interfaces on router 1. So let's do that. So let's create the loopback first. So set interface loopback 0, unit 0, family, INET, address 1.1.1.1/32, and then set protocol OSPF area 1 interface would be all, because all my interfaces need to belong to area 1. Now, one thing about Juniper is that yes, you have to commit your changes. So let's commit my changes, and my changes have been applied to my device. If I actually do a run show configuration display set, you would see that my configuration changes have been applied. So let's go back to the next router and configure the remaining things. Router 2, router 3, 4, 5, and 6. The best part is that, okay, it opens up in a tab. So you can actually, you don't have multiple windows. It actually opens up in a tab. Let's log in and configure router 2 also. So now we know that as per the diagram, which I believe is here, the link towards R1 should be in area 1, and all the remaining links belong to area 0 as per the question and as per the diagram. So we can look at the interface in the diagram. It's GE0/0/0, and we can configure that. So set interface loopback 0, unit 0, family would be INET, address 2.2.2.2/32, set protocol OSPF area 1 interface would be GE000, and all remaining interfaces belong to area 0. So area 0 interface all. Commit. Once I do commit, you should see a neighborship being established between router 1 and router 2, which we can verify with run show OSPF neighbor. My neighborship with router 1 is coming up. It's in two-way state right now. It should take about a few, maybe half a minute or something, because DR-BDR election is happening right now. So I should see my neighborship come up. Like this, you will configure the remaining routers. CLI, configure, set interface loopback 0, unit 0, family INET, address 3.3.3.3/32, set protocol OSPF, area 1 interface is GE002, which is the link towards R1, which we can see in the diagram. That should be in area 1. And all remaining interfaces belong to area 0. So R3 is done. All we have now is R4, R5, and R6. Again, set interface loopback 0, unit 0, family INET, address 4444/32, set protocol OSPF area 2, which is towards R6. Interface is GE002, and area 0 would be interface all, which all belongs to area 0. R4 is done. We have R5. Again, on R5, it's the same configuration: set interface loopback 0, unit 0, family INET, address 5555/32, set protocol OSPF area 2, interface GE000, and then area 0 would be interface all. Commit. Lastly, I have R6. Here, all my interfaces belong to area 2. Again, which I can confirm from the question as per and also in my diagram. So CLI, configure, set interface, loopback 0, unit 0, family INET, address 6666 slash 32, and set protocol OSPF area 2 interface all. Commit. So you see, now I've done the entire task and I can start doing my verification. So if I first look at my routing table, run show route protocol OSPF, I should see all the loopbacks in my routing table, including the network connecting the host. So I should be able to ping from host 1 to host 2. So now I have all the routes in my routing table. And the address family is INET, which is address family IPv4. If I go back to host 1 and click on that, double click on that, I should see host 1 opening up, and I should be able to ping the remote host 2.1, and my ping should work. That's the whole goal about this lab. The lab says at the end of your task, you should be able to ping from host 1 to host 2. So the beauty about this lab is that it's very specific to the video that you have already watched. So it's not like you watched some video before, 5 days before, and now you're doing some lab. It's very specific to the video that you watched right now. You finished your quiz questions, and then you are doing a task based on the video that you've actually learned. So that enhances your knowledge because you are reinforcing the things that you've actually learned in that video. Again, like I said, we have for CCIE Enterprise, we already have all the labs available for all of the technologies. For individual technologies, like for example, Juniper, BGP, we already have that for Cisco, we have that for Juniper as well. For uh, lab or for certifications like CCI service provider or collaboration, we are adding that. So every week, keep checking back. You would see some labs basically being added. The, the timeline, I don't really know because it takes time for us to build this lab. But yes, you would see these labs on INE side. So I'm going to now answer some of the questions that I see, which you guys have asked. So Um, let's see. So I see a question by Walter. Says labs only available for premium subscribers. Yes, at this point of time, the labs are available for premium subscribers. Then I see another question by Muhammad Fazwi. What about CCIE? So, like I said, for CCI, we are adding labs for the CCI platform also for the CCI certification. Initially, we would be starting off with the CCI technology wise. So, it's going to be videos for each technology. So, let's say you go to OSPF or you go to BGP. Within BGP, if there are 10 videos, you would have 10 labs. So we would add those first. Once that's done, then we would eventually start adding more labs, which is more inclined towards like a full blown topology. I see another question by, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'm sorry for that, but it's Adeboye. It says, what about the cloud labs? Um, I think even for the cloud labs, we are actually adding labs for that. I wouldn't be the right person to answer for cloud because I look at the network domain or networking domain. But yes, we would be having, I believe, for the cloud, for all the domains that we have on INE side, eventually we would be having cloud labs also. I see another question by Dether Crespi. What about the all the rack rentals we have around 1800 in my case? Are you shutting down rack rentals and workbooks and replacing them with this new labs? Um, I don't really know. I wouldn't be the right person to actually answer that question. What's happening with the rack rentals? All I know is me, Brian, Keith, we all have been assigned the task of creating labs, creating new labs as per the new technologies, as per the new certifications, the CCI enterprise or the CCI service provider or security or collaboration. So we are actually adding those labs. So I'm not really sure about the rack rentals. Maybe you can ping someone at INE, the support, and maybe ask them that question. But the workbooks that we have already on the platform, I believe that's still going to be there. I see another question by Walter. I understand the workbook contains explanations at the end or beginning of the lab. Is this also the same? So at this point of time, our solutions don't really have the explanation, because you actually doing the lab as per the video that you just watched. So all the explanation is actually there in that video. And so we haven't really put any explanation. We put the verification. So verification is still there. So there's solution and there is verification for that task. And so I believe, let's say if I go back to the solutions and look down, you would see verification. So all the commands required for you to verify if your solution is correct, you should be able to see in the solutions. So we have the verifications. Yes, there's no verbiage for explanation, because that's already there in that video that you just watched. So that's why we didn't really put, because it would be time consuming and we wanted to create more labs for you guys. I see another question by Raj Shekhar. Are the labs going to be for all sections, like for PA there are none as of now? I believe the labs are going to be for all the sections. Yes, it's going to take time because, like I said, we've been adding labs every day. So every day, every week, the production team and the team behind the scenes, they once we submit, they keep getting added on the INE platform. I see another question by Vesuddin Farzam. Any plans for DC version 3 labs? I believe we would be adding labs for DC version 3 also. I think Brian is working on that. So we should be adding labs for that as well. So our we started off with the CCI enterprise and CCI service provider security and collaboration, but Brian's actually has been working on that. Then I see a question by David Marquez. What about labs for CCI service provider as per the new version? So for the CCI service provider, I am actually working on that, and you should start seeing some labs for the CCI SP as well. I believe right now we already have the videos, and I believe some of the quiz questions are already there, but the labs are also going to be added for that. I see a question by Ajit Kumar Tripathi. What about CCI Security version 6 lab? Like I said, The CCI security, as we speak, labs are being added. We are working on that. We would first start off with technology wise, video wise labs for them. And once all of that is done, then we would obviously start off with giving you guys more labs, which is more full blown topology kind of setup. Again, I see one more question um, by Scapi Malazzi. It says, besides labs for each topic, what kind of lab exam readiness information is provided as I'm getting ready for the CCIE lab exam? So, I always tell all my students that if you are preparing for a CCIE, for example, if I was preparing for a CCIE, how do I study? It's always, I first go to Cisco's website, look at the blueprint, and maybe print that out, and then start marking things which is configuring, which has the word configuring. If it says something like understanding, I don't really care about that at this point of time because I already know what that technology is all about. The point about CCIE is that you have to actually do 3 weeks of production work in 8 hours. That's a lot of configuration. So you need speed. And obviously, you need to know the technology. So what I do is print out the blueprint. Cisco gives you a blueprint on their website. So print that out, and mark down everything that says configuring or deploying, and note down the topics, the high level topics, for example, OSPF, or let's say BGP attributes. Note down those things. Then I start watching videos for that, learning about that technology. Then I would do a lab for that technology. So I don't really care about a full scale topology initially. Let's say I was 3 months out for my CCIE. If I have 3 months, how do I prepare for it? I would say everybody has work, so we all work the whole day, so we don't really have much time on the weekdays. But what I would do is spend 2 hours on the weekday in configuring or in reading about it. If I don't know the technology, yes, I would read, I would watch the video, and then try out doing a lab on that. So I spend about 2 hours every day, but the weekends is where I grind. I put 8 to 10 hours on the weekends for the first 2 months. The last 3 weeks so before my lab exam, yes, that's when I want to do the full scale labs. But initially, what you want is know the technology and have speed in configuring that technology. Because if you, let's say, if they ask you something like BGP attributes local preference, you should not think about it. You should not think what was the command. Your fingers should just do the tricks. That's muscle memory, and that only comes with practice. So the more times you do the labs, the more times you practice each lab for each technology, that builds up speed and confidence. Yes, the last 3 weeks I will look at full blown topologies and do a full scale lab which has OSPF, which has ISIs, which has MPLS, maybe segment routing, BGP. I would do all of that together. But the point is, there's no point doing that if you don't have speed and you don't know the technology. So if you're starting off with your CCI, you're 3 or 4 months out, then yes, start doing individual technologies first. Start doing that first because you need to know. You cannot go into the lab exam thinking, what was the command for this? Or how do I do this? Which was the first attribute in Cisco or versus Juniper? So you don't have to think about that. It just should come to you. And that only comes with knowing the technology well, which will happen from your videos, and practicing the lab for that technology 3 or 4 times to get speed. That's what you need for a CCIE or even for a JNCIE. You need speed besides knowing it. Because I've seen a lot of people, they have 20 years of experience, they know everything. But when it comes down to going for the lab exam, They don't fail because they don't know the technology. They fail because they cannot complete the lab in that 8 hours. So speed plays an important role also. So that only comes with practice. You cannot just know the technology and you haven't practiced anything, because you need speed. Okay. Then I see another question by Raj Shekhar. For ASA and FTD with the course, would there be labs as well? So, like I said, for the security for each technology in the CCI security, or even the CCNP security, we're building labs. So yes, we would have labs for ASA, we would have labs for FTD as well. I see another question by Irfan. Uh, SD-WAN labs, are they still in progress? Yes, SD-WAN labs, we're actually building them as we speak. So you should see them in some time. Again, I have a question from Raj Shekhar that INE, I have noticed that there's no Cisco wireless stuff, and I'm really looking forward for the wireless labs and content and ACI labs. Maybe it's too big an ask. Wireless labs, I how much I know that I don't think. I mean, I'm not working on it. I don't think Brian is working on it, or even Keith's working on it. So maybe at some point when I probably give the CCIE wireless, I should start recording for that. But right now I have JNCIE in my site. So JNCIE Enterprise. So that's my first goal. So I see a question by Barry. Adding hardware view of the lab topology, for example, physical things in packet tracer, including estimate of power consumption during the time, would be cool. Also, practice tests for Cisco exams included with INE monthly subscription. So I wouldn't be able to comment on what's added in the monthly subscription versus the premium. Uh, that's probably the management decides that. But as far as the packet tracer is concerned, we do have the packet tracer features embedded inside the lab. So in case if you want to do a packet capture, you can within the lab. I have a question from Adnan Muhammad. Does INE provide full blown labs for enterprise and other tracks? Is it in the roadmap? Like I said, that we are working on creating labs first for each of the technologies, for each of our videos. And once that's done, then we would start looking at full blown labs. But I believe our current workbooks, they do have full blown labs, but we haven't started working on the full blown labs right now. Right now, we're only creating labs for each of the videos that we have, so that you can practice each of the technologies one by one. And I have one last question is INE Premium plus EVNG plus CML images and some server. Where can I virtualize all of this? Is this enough to prepare for CCIE? So you don't really need EVNG or CML or even any server. Like I said, with labs incorporated within the INE platform, you don't need anything. all you need is an INE premium subscription. And once you have that, you can watch the videos, you can do the quiz questions, and you can do the labs. So that prepares you for all of the certifications, whether it's CCNA or CCNP or CCIE. And then I have one last question. I have practiced all the INE labs in 2013. Is it required to do it again for the CCIE exams now? If you look at the blueprint from, let's say, CCIE version 5, CCIE route switch to CCIE enterprise, if you look at the blueprint, besides the DNSC or a bit of scripting, all the remaining technologies are still the same. OSPF is still the same. BGP is still the same. MPLS is still the same. L3 VPN is the same. So I would say 85% is still carried forward from CCI route switch. So, yes, you should practice all of the technologies that you've already done, maybe in 2013 or 2018 or 2020. You've done all of that. You should re-practice them because, yes, you don't need to do RIP. RIP is no more there in CCI Enterprise. You don't need to do ISIS. That's not there in CCI Enterprise. But for CCI service provider, ISIS is there. So look at the blueprint, look at the high level topic. If it's OSPF, then okay, what do I need in OSPF? What do I need to learn in OSPF? If it's, for example, if I was preparing for a CCIE, let's say CCI Enterprise and not CCI service provider, I would focus on, okay, do I have segment routing in CCI Enterprise? If not, I would not focus on that. I would focus on MPLS. But if I was giving CCI service provider, then okay, I need to focus on segment routing also. So look at the high level topics and then select the videos or the courses for that and do the labs for that. So if you look at even the workbook from before, there are hundreds of things, hundreds of labs there. Do I need to do all of them? No. Maybe 80% of that you need to do because that's still the same. It's relevant. BGP is relevant. MPLS is relevant. L3 VPN is relevant. OSPF is relevant. Switching is relevant. So do all of that. And I see one more question. Hope to see labs on automation as well. I believe I recorded two courses for automation using Python. And the labs are not added for that, but there are videos for that. But I believe labs for the programmability can also be added, and I will keep that in mind and work on that to provide you with labs for programmability. But I believe I have two courses for that, which has quiz questions and has the videos. And in fact, there's a lab demo also where you are not doing the lab, but I'm doing a lab. I'm actually giving you a question, a task, and I'm actually showing you how to configure that as per the task requirement. So there's a video for that also. There are two courses. One is the basic one is the advanced one. And I will take one more question, which is going to be, what about security lab? I think I've already answered that we are working on providing you with security labs, whether it's CCNP or CCI security. Okay, so like I said earlier, make sure you go through the videos, answer the quiz questions to basically analyze how much of the video did you actually learn, and are you able to answer those questions. That's probably going to help you from giving the certification, which is not lab based certification, but let's say a CCNP certification. If you were giving that, it should help you with that. And then if you're preparing, whether it's for your work, you want to know how to configure that, or even for a CCI level certification, start doing those labs which is already incorporated. They are really going to help you a lot. Okay, I hope this information was enough for you guys, and I should see you again in one another webinar at some point. Thank you guys for attending.